Hello again, welcome to Frame 316 Media. So, this is Robert. If you have been following this channel, we've been recording a lot of videos about storytelling, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And today, I want to talk about how you find your authentic story, both as a personal brand, or if you're a small company, a medium size, whatever the size of your company is. If you're running a company, that story should align to your personal story, your personal journey. So the question is, how do you find your authentic story? Okay, first, before I talk about finding your authentic story, probably I should cover, is it the answer to the question, is it even worth having a story, or is it even worth telling a story? On that question, my thought process would be yes, it's worth it. Why? Because what we have in the state of digital media today, we have access to almost anything. Anyone can have opinion about so many things. That opinion, sometimes it can be helpful, and more often, as we have noticed, so many opinions can be destructive or can be harmful to a lot of people. So, in that same line, no, in that same thought process, the more we need to figure out what our authentic story is. Because the digital media, the internet, is ripe, is filled with a lot of stories that are not true. No? So if you're a business owner that you're quite serious with what you're doing, you're quite intentional about growing your business, then the more that you should be inclined to find your authentic story. It's worth telling the story. Why? Because the world deserves it. The world needs to hear good stories. The world needs to be impacted by true, authentic, and good stories. So as a company or as a personal brand, how do you find out what your authentic story is? First, there has to be confidence, in how you share or how you deliver your stories. There has to be that bit of confidence. Otherwise, all your stories would look fake. All your stories would look like you are just trying to force that story into your audience. So you need to have confidence, and that confidence is should be coming from the realization that what you're really doing is impacting a lot of people. You're not just out there to get your clients money, and you're not out there to just make yourself rich and famous. um, your business, the success of your business, relies on, is it impacting people, in a positive way. So that's the first thing on how you find your authentic story. There has to be confidence in the way you tell your story. Second is, it has to be directed towards the right set of audience. Authentic storytelling involves like the relevance of what you're talking about. Imagine this: if you are in the health space, and even if you are authentic in the way you tell your story, how you serve patients, how you serve clients, if you are talking to people who are more into manufacturing, more into design and creative, it's not relevant to them. So, how you find out your authentic side of your story is, you have confidence, and you should be able to deliver it to the right set of audience. Another way to find out if you are telling your story in an authentic way is, there should be a purpose in why you tell your story. it has to be driven by something that first and foremost it resonates with you as a person. And once you are able to be, you have that platform to share your story, the purpose should be evident. If your purpose is to help a specific group of people, of business owners, the way you tell your story is that it has to be clear that that is your goal. That is what you're trying to achieve. Why this is important again is if you're not talking to the right people, if you don't have any sets of goal, there's no process in the way you tell your story, there's no it can never be authentic. It's plain and simple. So make sure there's a purpose to why you tell your story in the first place. Lastly, your story should show, or should it should be evident in the way you tell your story that you are driven towards transformation. Transformation is very important in business, in relationships, in even in personal growth. It should be clear that while you are telling your story, it's because you are driven to see some sort of transformation. You're looking for change for the better, of course, and you're looking to get as much people as you can to join you in a specific cause, whatever that cause is. Because when you run a business, when you are an entrepreneur, there's like a huge accountability that comes with it. Again, I'm talking to those entrepreneurs who are really really passionate about what they're doing and how it can impact people. Because believe it or not, there are entrepreneurs out there who are just out there to make money. That's their purpose in life. So we cannot argue with that. But what I'm trying to say is that if you are driven towards transformation, you become authentic in the way you tell your story. So a few of those things, and then there's still a lot that I can talk about, but I want to just focus on important things that I think is something that's more practical to you as a viewer. So if if you're in a journey where you're still trying to figure out whether your story is authentic or whether you have a story, it starts with just probably taking notes, looking at the mirror, asking the people around you, like, hey, what do you think of me? What do you think of the work that I do? And just being open to feedback of people that matter to you. And once you are able to be in that space, I think the next step is more of learning and realizing that there has to be something more than what you're doing as an entrepreneur right now. So that's our very short video for today. I hope you learned something, and if you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you have any questions related to creative entrepreneurship, just put it in the comment section, and I will be more than glad to talk about it in our future videos. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching today's video, and if you find any value in the video that you have seen, please make sure to subscribe and share this video to your colleagues and your friends who would benefit in the area of storytelling, because everything starts from where you are right now. It only takes creating one better story at a time. See you in the next videos.